Yeah. In 1953, Watson and Crick discovered DNA. Soon after, people began to wonder if this code for life could be changed to create different traits. Then, in the 1970s, genetic engineering became a very plausible idea. So genetic engineering alters the DNA of an organism in a way that doesn't occur naturally. So the way that genetic engineering affects us most in our lives is through GMOs. So now technically GMOs include everything that reproduces sexually because we're all genetically different from their parents. Recently, however, the idea of GMOs has been changed to only include things that are genetically engineered. The World Health Organization accepts this change, saying that GMOs can be defined as organisms in which the genetic material has been altered in a way that doesn't occur naturally. So when I talk about GMOs, what's the first thing that came to your mind? You can just shout it out. Anyone? Cheetos. Yeah, food. I forgot about that slide. Yeah, so food is where GMOs are most commonly talked about and also where they're most controversial. There's lots of research that out there about GMOs. So there are a lot of studies that are not scientifically sound or that are paid for by people who have a bias. There are lots of strong opinions on how GMOs can affect farmers in the land and people form these opinions without ever actually talking to a farmer. So in this talk, we're going to look at real and false concerns about GMOs, how they affect farmers in the land, and how public opinion has affected the growth of GMOs. So the two biggest concerns are allergies and gene transfer. Allergies comes from the idea that if you took a gene from a species that someone was allergic to and put it into this new food, then someone could have an allergic reaction to this food even though they wouldn't normally be allergic to that food because of that other gene. So say someone is allergic to peanuts, but not corn. If scientists took genes from the peanuts and put it into the corn, someone could have an allergic reaction to the corn from the peanut genes, not from the corn. Thankfully, this is very, very carefully tested for, and scientists know exactly what the genes do that they are inserted into the genetically modified food. So no one should have an allergic reaction for this. Gene transfer is slightly more plausible, and it happens in our intestines when we eat. We absorb some of the genetic material in our food. So the fear is that if we absorbed some of that transferred or some of that inserted gene, we could absorb it, and that could negatively affect our health. Sorry. Thankfully, both of these are very carefully tested for and are very unlikely to happen. So some of the illegitimate concerns about GMOs come from some of that research out there. So their concerns are cancer, infertility, and toxicity. So the cancer study comes from a study done on rats. And one group of rats was fed genetically modified food for a few years, and one group of rats was not fed organic food for a few years. Now, the group of rats that was fed the genetically modified food did develop cancer in their stomach and intestines, but so did the rats that ate the organic food because the breed of rats that was used was very, very prone to cancer. And so the results were not really conclusive enough to get a very good, solid evidence for this. In a very similar way, the infertility fear comes from an unpublished Russian study. There's a reason that this study was unpublished, because it was not very well done and it was not conclusive. In addition, stock animals such as pigs and cows have been fed genetically modified food for several generations, and they've never had problems reproducing. The fear of toxicity comes from the fact that plants naturally produce toxins. So when they are genetically modified, when these genes are inserted, it is thought that possibly more toxins could be produced from this. However, the genes that are usually inserted are very, very carefully tested for. Scientists know exactly what they do, so they will not increase the toxicity of a plant. So now we're going to look at how GMOs affect farmers. GMO seeds can be patented, which is the main problem that people have with big companies. So the companies Monsanto, DuPont, Syngenta, and Dow own 80% of all genetically modified corn seeds, 70% of all genetically modified soybean seeds, and 60% of all genetically modified seeds in general. So this makes it so that farmers can't save seeds from one year and plant them the next year.
Excuse the interruption. At this time, all 7th graders, please come to the commons with your lunch or lunch money. 7th graders to the commons with your lunch money, and jacket.
Cross-pollination can spread pollen from genetically modified plants to organic plants. And the fear for farmers is if a farmer had organic crops and the genetically modified pollen came into them, the companies could sue for having their plants without paying for them. However, there was only one occurrence of this actually happening, and the farmer had an entire field full of genetically modified crops without paying for it, and this could not happen just from wind or cross-pollination. Also, biodiversity can be an issue because the genes that are inserted into the genetically modified plants, it's just the same 1 or 2 genes in every single one of them. So there's no biodiversity. However, it's only just 1 or 2 genes, and nothing has arisen from this in the past 20 years. Cross-pollination can also create herbicide-resistant weeds, or super weeds. So more powerful herbicides have to be used so that the plants won't get hurt, but the weeds do. This can be harmful to the environment, and these super weeds are present in 21 different states. Also, these herbicides usually contain the chemical called glyphosate. And in high levels, this can be slightly toxic to partially non-toxic, according to WHO. So these herbicides are very, very watered down when they're sprayed onto these fields. However, after several years, a very high concentration can be present in the surrounding areas. Overall, though, growing genetically modified crops is not really a problem for farmers because all seeds can be patented, not just genetically modified seeds. In addition, if it was a problem for farmers, they would not keep buying and growing genetically modified plants year after year. People claim that farmers don't know how much genetically modified crops hurt the environment, but farmers' entire lives are based off of the health of their land, and so they would never do anything to harm it. Now on to public opinion. In a survey given to 54 different GMO stakeholders in 25 different countries, the biggest challenge in biotech development was public opinion. In a survey that I gave to 30 different classmates, 40% said that they believe that genetically modified food is safe to eat. But at the same time, 50% of people said that they only eat genetically modified crops because it's unavoidable, not because they know it's safe. Here we see 40% said it was safe, but 50% said they only eat them because they can't avoid it. So what's with this inconsistency? As I said, the biggest problem for people working to improve genetically modified crops is public opinion. Public opinion has negatively impacted the growth of genetically modified plants because people are afraid of these inherently harmless crops. In third world countries, food could be genetically modified to be more nutritious and plentiful. Food could be genetically modified to have more flavor and also be healthier at the same time. In areas of drought, food could be genetically modified to grow faster and with less water. Genetically modified plants are genetically modified crops are the most carefully tested for on the market. According to Purdue University, GMOs have undergone the most detailed evaluation than any other group of plants we eat. Careful, unbiased research has shown that GMOs are safe to eat, and farmers continue to grow GMOs year after year, and they've never had any problems with this. The main setback for GMOs in the improvement of GMO crops is the public opinion. And with quick, simple education like this talk, the improvement and growth in GMOs can and will lead to a healthy, well-fed planet. Thank you.